Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are going to take a massive cognitive leap. We're going to start with something that seems like a totally simple, everyday microtopic, plastic surgery and cosmetic trends, and we're zooming all the way out to look at the macro destiny of global knowledge. Sounds like a stretch, right? But I promise you, by the end of this journey, the way you look at a simple cosmetic procedure, and honestly, even the role of entire nations, is going to be completely transformed.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 6 key areas: the paradox of the body, the great shift, the flow of knowledge, the future research lab, the researchers, and finally, finding the principle. Section 1. The paradox of the body, from strict tradition to modern modification. Now you might be wondering, for centuries, traditional Confucian teachings dictated this incredibly strict rule. Basically, you must never, ever alter the physical body given to you by your parents. Yet look around today. We live in a society that completely normalizes and even encourages plastic surgery. So why the sudden flip? Now, obviously, our ancestors didn't actually get struck by lightning just for cutting their hair, right? The rule was symbolic. But this massive pivot from a strict do not touch mindset to resculpt however you want represents a truly profound shift in human psychology. Moving right along to Section 2, the great shift, moving from natural law to scientific creation.
Now, what's really interesting about this ideological overturning is the stark contrast between these two eras. Think about it. For roughly 2,000 to 3,000 years, humanity lived in a pre-scientific era. We essentially just accepted whatever nature handed us, right? We followed the natural flow. But after World War II, we transitioned into the scientific era. Humans decided to take the wheel. We started actively experimenting, tweaking, and modifying everything around us, literally right down to our DNA. It was a total, monumental flip from passive acceptance to active creation.
Let's actually trace how this human logic evolved step by step. For thousands of years, accumulated knowledge just flowed naturally. People followed tradition. But then World War II happened. It acted as this massive, violent, global reset button. New logic violently clashed with old logic, and historical ideas were completely overturned. Following that dust settling, from post-WWI up to about the year 2012, we entered an intense era of organizing. Humanity was super busy categorizing all this mixed-up intellectual and scientific energy. And finally, from 2013 onward, we crossed a major threshold. We moved from simply organizing our knowledge to actively applying it to open up and prepare for the future. Section 3. The flow of knowledge, the Silk Road and global energy. Let's move on and see how this builds, because knowledge doesn't just spontaneously appear out of nowhere, it literally travels. Imagine global knowledge as this massive flow of evolutionary energy moving through a giant tree. The branches represent the outer world, places like the vast expanses of Eurasia. That's where diverse, scattered progress begins. Next, all that diverse progress gathers into the trunk, condensing and traveling along pathways, kind of like the historical Silk Road. And the ultimate destination? The roots. Historically, this highly refined knowledge has actually converged right at the 37th parallel, specifically landing on the Korean peninsula. Section 4. The Future Research Lab, recontextualizing the Korean peninsula. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when you pour the absolute entirety of the world's refined knowledge into one specific location. It essentially turns into humanity's future research lab. South Korea isn't just blindly importing Western tech to play catch-up. Not at all. Sociologically, it's acting as a highly concentrated global testing ground. It's synthesizing all this imported human logic, experimenting with it, and attempting to solve our deeply unresolved issues. That unprecedented lightning-fast development we've seen, it's the direct result of being the global roots where all that energy pooled specifically to be tested.
Which brings us right back to our original topic, plastic surgery. It's really just one of many micro-experiments happening inside this macro-level societal lab. Think about it. When a society becomes this incredibly dense with knowledge, we start tinkering. We push boundaries. We test our own physical limits. Modifying our faces isn't some final completed phase of human evolution. It's really just us putting on our metaphorical lab coats and playing around with the new tools we've gathered.
Section 5. The researchers, the analog generation. So, if this whole society is basically a giant laboratory, who exactly is running the experiments? Well, the answer actually lies in a highly specific demographic cohort that spans exactly 36 years. Collectively known as the analog generation, These folks are the primary researchers. They are the ones tasked with absorbing this massive, overwhelming influx of global knowledge and basically figuring out what on earth to do with it.
And this 36-year cohort splits perfectly into three 12-year tiers. Each one plays a totally distinct, absolutely necessary role in the lab. At the top, we have the elders, ranging from age 60 to 72. They act as the conservative baseline, the elder brothers keeping the foundation steady. Right in the middle are the baby boomers in their 50s. They function as the progressives, the ones pushing the boundaries and driving momentum forward. And at the bottom, Gen X, in their 40s, act as the youngest primary absorbers of all this new tech and culture. Together, these three groups process society's absolute most radical experiments, which includes normalizing things like, you guessed it, plastic surgery.
Finally, Section 6, Finding the Principle, Returning to the Micro Perspective.
So the crucial point is, to make sense of all this, we have to fully embrace the experimental phase we're living in right now. We are in a highly scientific era of human creation. We are no longer bound by nature's default settings. Sure, because it's a massive experiment, there are absolutely going to be errors and weird contradictions. But rather than just scolding these missteps, we really need to embrace them as our collective learning curve. Physical modification is a completely natural part of testing our human capabilities. It's not some failure of tradition, it is hands-on preparation for the future. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought to wrap things up. If altering our faces or our bodies is simply a valid, totally necessary experiment within humanity's grand sociological lab, what were our ancestors really trying to tell us? When they said don't alter what your parents gave you, were they honestly just worried about haircuts? Or is there a much deeper underlying philosophical truth, a core human essence, that they desperately wanted us to protect while we go off and experiment with the surface? I'll leave you to ponder that one. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the world around you.